The shocking truth behind Judge Heran's death. Marco's devastating discovery. The recent developments in Port Charles have left viewers on the edge of their seats, as Marco Rios finds himself at the center of a web of deception that threatens to destroy everything he thought he knew about his family. What began as a quest for justice against Sonny Corinthos has transformed into a nightmare revelation that will test Marco's loyalty and moral compass in ways he never imagined. Marco's initial suspicions. For weeks, Marco has been consumed with the belief that Sonny Corinthos orchestrated the bribery of Judge Eva Heran with $1 million payment, securing Michael Corinthos full custody of his children. In what should have been a fair legal proceeding, the timing seemed too convenient, and Marco's grief over his mother Natalia's tragic death only fueled his conviction that Sonny was behind multiple crimes. The discovery of Judge Heran's body floating in the harbor, found by Danny Morgan and Rocco Falconeri, seemed to confirm Marco's worst fears about Sonny's willingness to silence witnesses. Marco's pain ran deeper than just the custody case. He genuinely believed that Sonny had murdered his mother Natalia, who died from an overdose of tranquilizers and alcohol while despondent over her relationship with the mob boss. The combination of these perceived crimes against his family had Marco determined to see Sonny pay for what he believed were calculated acts of violence and corruption. The investigation takes a dark turn. Driven by his need for justice, Marco began gathering evidence to build a case against Sonny. His relationship with Dr. Lucas Jones had given him access to hospital records and connections throughout Port Charles that proved invaluable in his investigation. However, as Marco dug deeper into the financial records surrounding Judge Heran's bribery, he began to uncover inconsistencies that didn't align with Sonny's typical methods of operation. The paper trail led Marco through a maze of offshore accounts and shell companies that seemed far more sophisticated than Sonny's usual operations. Each new piece of evidence pointed away from the Corinthos organization and towards something much closer to home. The realization began to dawn on Marco that he might have been chasing the wrong suspect entirely. The devastating discovery. The moment of truth arrived when Marco finally traced the $1 million payment back to its source. The sophisticated financial network that had initially seemed beyond Sonny's reach suddenly made perfect sense when Marco realized it bore all the hallmarks of his father Jens Sidwell's business empire. The man who had raised him, who had claimed to want justice for the family, was revealed to be the architect of the very crimes Marco had been investigating. The revelation hit Marco like a physical blow. Sidwell hadn't just bribed Judge Heran to frame Sonny, he had orchestrated an elaborate scheme to destroy the Corinthos family while positioning himself to take over Sonny's territory. The discovery that Judge Heran's death was likely at Sidwell's hands to prevent her from revealing the truth added another layer of horror to Marco's realization. A father-son confrontation. Armed with the damning evidence against his father, Marco knew he had to confront Sidwell directly. The meeting between father and son crackled with tension. As Marco laid out everything he had discovered, Sidwell's initial attempts to deny his involvement quickly crumbled under the weight of Marco's evidence, and the older man's facade finally dropped to reveal the calculating criminal beneath. "How could you let me believe it was Sonny?" Marco demanded, his voice shaking with a mixture of rage and betrayal. "I've been hunting an innocent man while you've been pulling the strings all along." Sidwell's response was chillingly pragmatic. He explained how the bribery was just one piece of a larger plan to eliminate Sonny as a competitor and seize control of the Port Charles waterfront. Judge Heran's murder wasn't personal, it was simply a necessary step to ensure the plan's success. Even Natalia's death, while not directly caused by Sidwell, had been convenient for his schemes. The impossible choice. Marco found himself facing an agonizing decision that would define his character and future. On one hand, he had concrete evidence that his father was guilty of bribery, murder, and conspiracy. Justice demanded that Sidwell face the consequences of his actions. On the other hand, turning in his own father would destroy what remained of his family and likely result in Sidwell spending the rest of his life in prison. The internal conflict tore at Marco as he considered his options. His relationship with Lucas Jones had shown him what it meant to have genuine connections, built on trust and honesty. Yet the bonds of family, however twisted they had become, still held power over him. The thought of being responsible for his father's downfall, even after everything Sidwell had done, weighed heavily on his conscience. A dark decision. After days of anguish, Marco made a choice that would shock anyone who thought they knew him. Despite having proof of his father's guilt, Marco decided to protect Sidwell by continuing to frame Sonny for the crimes. The decision wasn't made out of love or loyalty, but from a complex mixture of family obligation and fear of the consequences that would follow Sidwell's exposure. Marco's plan involved carefully destroying evidence that pointed to his father, while ensuring that circumstantial evidence continued to implicate Sonny in Judge Heran's bribery and death. He would sacrifice his relationship with Lucas, his standing in the community, and his own moral compass to shield the man who had caused so much pain and destruction. The ripple effects. Marco's decision to protect Sidwell while framing Sonny sets the stage for devastating consequences. Throughout Port Charles, Michael Corinthos faces the potential loss of his children as the custody case becomes tainted by allegations of his father's criminal activity. Willow Tate, despite her own complicated relationship with the situation, stands to benefit from Marco's deception, potentially gaining full custody of Wiley and Amelia. The decision also places Marco on a collision course with Lucas, who has been trying to help protect Michael's interests. When Lucas eventually discovers Marco's role in perpetuating the frame-up, their budding romance will likely crumble under the weight of betrayal and deception. Meanwhile, Sonny finds himself fighting a battle on multiple fronts, unaware that the son of his true enemy has chosen to become an active participant in his destruction. The irony that Marco, who initially sought justice for perceived wrongs, has now become complicit in the very type of corruption he once despised, adds a tragic dimension to the unfolding drama. Marco's journey from victim to perpetrator illustrates the complex moral landscape that makes General Hospital such compelling viewing. His decision to protect Sidwell while continuing to frame Sonny represents not just a betrayal of justice, but a betrayal of his own values and the people who trusted him. As this storyline continues to unfold, viewers can expect the truth to eventually surface, bringing with it consequences that will reshape relationships and power dynamics throughout Port Charles for months to come. The revelation of Marco's choice ensures that when the truth finally emerges, the fallout will be even more devastating than if he had simply exposed Sidwell from the beginning. In protecting his father, Marco has guaranteed that more innocent people will suffer and that justice will be delayed, rather than denied entirely. Next, we will learn about the brewing storm surrounding Congressman Drew Kane and the potential twists that could finally bring him down in Port Charles. The rising tensions in Port Charles. For what feels like an eternity, fans have watched Congressman Drew Kane weave a web of deceit and betrayal across the bustling streets of Port Charles. But the tide seems to be turning against him at last. In recent episodes, the air has thickened with hostility as Drew's list of adversaries grows longer by the day. Just last week, sharp warnings came flying his way from key figures who've had enough of his manipulative schemes. Alexis Davis, with her no-nonsense legal prowess, confronted him head-on about his underhanded tactics in the courtroom and beyond, vowing to expose every dirty secret he's buried. Nina Reeves, ever the fierce protector of her loved ones, didn't hold back in threatening retribution for how he's toyed with her emotions and alliances. Carly Spencer, the indomitable force who's weathered countless storms, issued a stark ultimatum, reminding Drew that crossing her family comes with severe consequences. And Curtis Ashford, still reeling from personal losses, added his voice to the chorus, promising to dismantle Drew's empire piece by piece. After the congressman's interference in his investigations, these confrontations aren't isolated incidents. They're building blocks in what could become one of the most explosive storylines yet. With so many grudges simmering, the show appears to be laying the groundwork for a classic Mr. Perhaps a Who Shot Drew saga that echoes the high-stakes dramas of soap opera lore, but in a town like Port Charles, where surprises lurk around every corner. Is this simple gunshot too predictable? Maybe the writers have something more inventive up their sleeves, a method that neutralizes Drew without the bang of a bullet, keeping viewers on the edge of their seats. Drew's descent into darkness. Drew Kane's transformation from a heroic newcomer to a full-fledged antagonist has unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony, each note building to a crescendo of villainy that no one anticipated. This shift didn't happen overnight. It's been a gradual erosion of his moral compass, influenced by the chaotic undercurrents of Port Charles life. When Drew first stepped into the spotlight, he was under the illusion that he was Jason Morgan, the stoic enforcer with a heart of gold. But revelations about his true identity as Jason's twin brother shattered that facade, forcing him to carve out his own path. In those early days, Drew embodied the essence of a good guy, stepping up in moments of crisis with bravery that won over the town's residents. Remember the tense standoff at General Hospital when a bomb threatened to level the building? Drew teamed up with Curtis Ashford in a pulse-pounding effort to disarm it, their quick thinking saving countless lives and cementing Drew's status as a local hero. Later, he joined forces with Mayor Laura Collins and her eclectic group of allies in a globe-trotting adventure to thwart the megalomaniac Victor Casadini, whose plans for world domination involved ancient relics and shadowy conspiracies. Drew's contributions were pivotal, from decoding cryptic messages to engaging in daring rescues that prevented catastrophe. Yet, somewhere along the line, ambition poisoned his soul. Subtle influences, like political pressures and personal vendettas, twisted his once noble intentions. He began cutting shady deals in the halls of power, betraying friends for fleeting gains, and embracing a ruthless side that blindsided even his closest confidants. Fans have speculated that this heel turn mirrors real-life falls from grace, but in the soap world, it's primed for dramatic payback. Echoes of past soap sagas and fresh twists. As the threats pile up, speculation runs wild that Drew could meet a fate similar to infamous characters in other daytime dramas, but General Hospital might opt for originality to keep things fresh. Enthusiasts are buzzing about the possibility of a shooting, drawing parallels to the infamous Who Shot E.J. arc on Days of Our Lives, where E.J. Dimmer's enemies lined up after his tyrannical reign, leading to a whodunit that kept audiences guessing for weeks. In that storyline, the build-up involved layered betrayals and hidden motives, much like Drew's current predicament. However, with that plot still fresh in viewers' minds, shaving aired not too long ago, writers at General Hospital could pivot to avoid repetition. Instead of a hail of bullets in a dimly lit alley or a public confrontation gone wrong, imagine a subtler, more insidious endgame. Port Charles has a history of creative demises, from poisonings disguised as everyday mishaps to elaborate setups that leave no fingerprints. This approach would allow for a broader suspect pool, including unlikely players who might strike from the shadows. Adding to the intrigue, Drew's political career has entangled him with international figures, opening doors to global threats that could introduce exotic elements like rare toxins or high-tech gadgets. Whatever the method, it's clear the show is ramping up for a climax that not only punishes Drew, but also ties up loose ends from his web of lies, potentially reshaping alliances across the canvas. The Deception Cosmetics conspiracy. At the heart of this unfolding drama lies a seemingly innocuous product line. That's anything but Deception Cosmetics, which has become a Trojan horse for danger in Port Charles. This beauty empire, helmed by bold entrepreneurs, was meant to symbolize empowerment and glamour, but recent events have exposed its vulnerability to sabotage. Take the chilling incident with Maxie Jones, the vibrant fashionista who's no stranger to the spotlight. Just before her big appearance on the Home and Heart Shopping Network, Maxie received a specially prepared container of Deception's signature face cream, touted for its revolutionary anti-aging properties. Eager to demonstrate its wonders live on air, she applied a generous dollop, only to collapse moments later in front of horrified viewers. What followed was a harrowing descent into a coma, her vital signs fluctuating as doctors at General Hospital raced to uncover the cause. Whispers in the corridors suggested tampering, but the truth emerged as something far more sinister. The cream had been laced with a potent toxin, engineered to induce rapid unconsciousness. This wasn't a random accident, it was a calculated strike, and fingers point to the enigmatic Jen Sidwell as the mastermind. Sidwell, a shadowy operator with ties to underground networks, has been pulling strings from afar, using deception as a conduit for his vendettas. In a tense conversation with his son Marco, Sidwell expressed frustration over loose ends, hinting at broader plans that involve high-stakes power plays in Port Charles. Sidwell's shadowy schemes and Drew's peril. Jen Sidwell's involvement adds a layer of international intrigue to Drew's potential downfall, transforming a local feud into a web of global proportions. This cunning villain, known for his meticulous planning and ruthless efficiency, views Drew as an increasingly problematic pawn in his grand design. Sidwell's operations span continents, involving everything from black market dealings to corporate espionage, and Drew's erratic behavior, marked by impulsive decisions and public scandals, has begun to clash with these carefully laid plans. In a pivotal scene, Sidwell confided in Marco that Drew's crazy antics were disrupting the harmony of his machinations, likening him to a loose cannon that could sink the entire ship. To eliminate this liability, Sidwell could employ his expertise in covert eliminations, perhaps slipping a similar poison into Drew's routine. disguised as a harmless gift or everyday item. Imagine Drew attending a high-profile event, sampling a new deception product line extension, only to suffer the same fate as Maxie or worse, a fatal reaction that leaves no trace. Marco's own missteps have fueled the fire. By spilling details of Sidwell's plot to undermine Sonny Corinthos, the town's formidable mob boss, Marco inadvertently put Drew in the crosshairs. Sidwell, ever the pragmatist, would relish permanently silencing Drew to protect his empire, especially since Sonny's downfall involves intricate alliances that can't afford exposure. This method offers a poetic justice, tying back to Deception's tainted legacy and providing a fresh alternative to the expected gunfire. A creative exit for Congressman Cutthroat, while the residents of Port Charles sharpen their knives and load their metaphorical guns, expecting a violent showdown. Drew's demise might come in a form that's as elegant as it is unexpected, rather than a dramatic shooting that rallies suspects for interrogation. A poisoned twist could ripple through the community, sparking investigations that unearth deeper conspiracies. This approach not only subverts viewer expectations, but also allows for character development among the ensemble. As alliances form and break in the aftermath, Drew, once a beacon of hope, now stands on the precipice, his enemies circling like vultures. Whether through Sidwell's cunning or another unforeseen force, his reign of terror seems destined to end. Next, we will learn about the tangled web of secrets and alliances holding Ric Lansing captive in Port Charles, and the fragile partnership among three formidable women that could shatter at any moment. The shocking captivity of Ric Lansing. In the shadowy underbelly of Port Charles, a dramatic revelation has emerged. The true prisoner in this high-stakes ABC General Hospital saga is none other than the cunning attorney Ric Lansing, bound securely to a creaky old bed in a dimly lit, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Ric finds himself at the mercy of an unlikely trio. Alexis Davis, Ava Jerome, and Christina Corinthos Daviswell have him gagged with a makeshift ball to silence any pleas or threats. This setup isn't just a spur-of-the-moment act, it's the culmination of escalating tensions, where Ric's manipulative games have finally backfired in spectacular fashion. His eyes dart wildly, reflecting a mix of fury and fear, as he struggles against the ropes that dig into his wrists. A stark contrast to his usual polished courtroom demeanor. The air in the room hangs heavy with the scent of stale dust and desperation, underscoring how far these women have gone to seize control. Ric's history of scheming, from his past entanglements with the mob to his relentless pursuit of power, has made him a prime target, but now he's immobilized, forced to confront the consequences of his actions in real time. This captivity adds a layer of intrigue, as whispers around Port Charles suggest there might be hidden cameras or secret recordings at play, ensuring no one can deny the events unfolding. The unlikely alliance of three women. While Ric's predicament is undeniably perilous, the real fascination lies with the three women who've orchestrated his downfall, banding together in a rare display of unity that feels as precarious as a house of cards. In A Stiff Breeze, Alexis, the sharp-witted lawyer with a moral compass that's been tested time and again, stands as the strategic mind of the group, her expressions a blend of resolve and hidden doubt. Ava, the glamorous art dealer with a penchant for survival at all costs, brings her street-smart instincts, her manicured nails tapping rhythmically as she plots their next move. And Christina, the passionate young woman navigating family loyalties and personal vendettas, injects youthful energy, though her impulsive nature could be the spark that ignites discord. For now, they're operating as a cohesive unit, their conversations laced with hushed tones and shared glances that speak volumes about their temporary truce. Yet, the question looming over this alliance is how long it can last before cracks appear, perhaps triggered by a minor disagreement over logistics or a sudden burst of paranoia. Invented elements like a secret code word they've established for emergencies add to the tension, hinting at the fragility of their bond in a town where trust is a rare commodity. Ava's signature move in its evolution. Ava Jerome has carved out a notorious reputation in Port Charles for her impulsive reactions, when crossed by the men in her life, often resorting to a swift and decisive strike that leaves lasting repercussions. Her go-to tactic, a forceful blow to the head, delivered with the precision of someone who's learned to protect herself. In a world full of betrayals, this pattern first surfaced dramatically with Nicholas Casadini, her former flame whose volatile relationship pushed her to the brink. In a fit of rage during a heated argument in the opulent halls of Windermere, Ava grabbed a nearby antique vase and swung it with all her might, believing she'd ended his life in that chaotic moment. The aftermath was a whirlwind of guilt and cover-ups, only for the truth to unravel that Nicholas had been secretly abducted by shadowy figures, whisked away to a remote clinic where he was nursed back to health under false identities. This twist not only spared Ava from murder charges, but also left her wary of repeating such risks. Now, with Ric, she's adapted her approach, opting not to leave him for dead in some forgotten corner, but instead keeping him firmly in sight, his every breath monitored to prevent any miraculous escapes or interventions. This evolution shows Ava's growing caution, perhaps influenced by invented backstory details like a childhood lesson in self-preservation from her mobster family, ensuring she's always one step ahead, keeping Ric in plain sight. By choosing to restrain Ric where she'd now her accomplices can keep a constant eye on him, Ava has shifted the dynamics of their scheme, turning what could have been a solitary act into a group endeavor fraught with shared risks. Unlike the Nicholas incident, where uncertainty about his fate haunted her for months, this time Ava insists on visibility, positioning Ric in a central spot within their hideout, illuminated by a single flickering bulb that casts eerie shadows on the walls. Christina, drawn into the fold through her own grievances against Ric for his role in family disputes, now has full access to observe and participate, her presence adding an emotional volatility to the mix. Alexis, ever the voice of reason tempered by her protective instincts as a mother, joins in, her legal expertise weighing the implications of every decision. But as they stand watch over their captive, questions arise. Do their visions for the future align? Or are hidden agendas bubbling beneath the surface? Invented elements, such as a rotating shift schedule they've devised to guard him around the clock, highlight the logistical challenges, including late-night vigils that test their endurance and loyalty, the fragile plan and looming betrayals. Currently, the trio appears synchronized in their immediate goal, agreeing to hold Ric hostage for a full 30 days as a means to extract information or force concessions. But the blueprint for what follows remains shrouded in ambiguity, like a half-written script waiting for its dramatic reveal. During this period, they plan to interrogate him about his involvement in various scandals, perhaps uncovering dirt on corrupt officials or hidden assets that could benefit them all. Yet, the vagueness of the "and then" leaves room for doubt, with each woman privately pondering escape routes. We're wagering that long before the 30-day mark, maybe as early as week 2, when fatigue sets in and tempers flare, Alexis, Ava, and Christina will pivot from cooperation to self-preservation, scheming ways to extricate themselves while sacrificing the others. This potential fracture could stem from invented scenarios, like a close call with an unexpected visitor to the warehouse, forcing them to question one another's reliability and planting seeds of distrust that grow rapidly in the confined space. The standoff of mutual secrets. At the core of their uneasy pact is a tense standoff, where each woman holds damning knowledge about the others, creating a delicate balance that could tip with one wrong move. Ava is privy to Christina's near-fatal altercation involving Ric and Elizabeth Weber, a chaotic car incident that left scars and secrets in its wake, as well as Alexis's desperate act of embezzling funds from a client trust to bury the evidence. In turn, Alexis and Christina are armed with the truth about Ava's assault on Ric, clobbering him over the head with a heavy object in a moment of unchecked fury. This mutual incrimination acts as a deterrent no one dares to betray, without inviting their own downfall, like a high-stakes game of chess where every piece is a potential traitor. However, the equilibrium is illusory, vulnerable to the first player bold enough to make a preemptive strike, perhaps by leaking anonymous tips to the authorities or forging evidence to shift blame. Strategies for self-preservation. Imagine if Ava seizes the initiative, marching into the Port Charles Police Department with a carefully crafted tale, detailing Christina's role in the near-killing of Ric and Elizabeth during that fateful car mishap, and exposing Alexis's financial misdeeds to cover it up, while pinning the assault and kidnapping squarely on the mother-daughter pair. In this scenario, Alexis and Christina would be thrust onto the defensive, scrambling to prove their innocence without concrete evidence linking Ava to the head blow. After all, fingerprints can be wiped and alibis fabricated in a town rife with corruption. Conversely, to counter this threat, Alexis and Christina might rush to the cops themselves, not only implicating Ava in the assault, but also fabricating a narrative that she tampered with the vehicle's brakes, escalating the accident from mishap to premeditated attack. This invented twist could involve planted evidence, like a mechanic's tool found in Ava's gallery, adding forensic intrigue to the plot. Both sides recognized the peril. their minds racing through late-night discussions in the hideout. The smarts behind the schemes. Neither Ava nor Alexis is one to underestimate a crisis. Their intelligence and experience make them formidable players, constantly brainstorming exits from this quagmire while eyeing opportunities to offload the blame onto a convenient scapegoat. Ava, with her gallery's network of shady contacts, might consider enlisting a discreet ally to plant false trails, while Alexis draws on her legal acumen to draft contingency plans that minimize fallout. Christina, caught in the middle, adds an unpredictable element, her loyalty to family clashing with survival instincts. As they circle Ric's bound form, the women ponder who among Port Charles's colorful cast, perhaps a rival like Sonny, or an outsider with a grudge cooled, be framed as the mastermind. This cerebral cat-and-mouse game promises twists, ensuring the alliance's dissolution will be as explosive as its formation, reshaping the landscape of betrayals in General Hospital.